So for the past week, I've been playing a lot of Mario Kart World on my Switch too, and what can I say? I really like the game. The skins are beautiful for all the characters. I really like the animations of the game looks good. I personally think it looks better than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch, and I really do love Donkey Kong's new design. He looks so cute now. But I do have one issue that might be a little bit nitpicky, and I don't know if you've noticed, but the character roster compared to Super Mario 8 Deluxe is very little. Hey, editing Naya here. So it does turn out that Mario Kart World has more characters compared to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but I think what I was trying to say is that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe had more interesting characters compared to World. For example, when they had the Inklings from Splatoon, Kamek was still a character instead of a weapon. Bowser was in the game. I love playing as the penguin or the bat or even the cow, but I don't think they're as interesting as having Diddy Kong or Bowser in the game. Anyway, back to the video. And they don't even have my favorite characters in it. Sure, Pauline has always been my most played character, but my second most played character is from a group called the Koopalings. Where are the Koopalings? Hiya, I'm Naya, and I am sick of Nintendo neglecting the Koopalings. I love them so much. Why are they in the background? What happened? And so, since I'm an artist, I've decided that I would draw a hypothetical skin for each of the Koopalings if they were in the game. Because I do think that if they were going to be added into the game, that they should have at least one skin. So to start it all off, I decided to begin with Ludwig, the eldest, however you call it, one of the Koopalings. He's the oldest. For Ludwig, it was very simple for a skin. I decided to go for a Maestro skin because of, he's based on Ludwig von Beethoven. So it just makes sense to me to give him a skin that is connected to music. Specifically classical music, because I don't think he would actually play anything else besides piano. That's kind of my own headcanon. And I have to say that Ludwig isn't my most favorite one of the Koopalings, but he is definitely funny to me. I don't know, he just looks funny. According to the wiki, Ludwig von Koopa is intelligent, cunning and bold. He loves to show off and stand out in a crowd, and oftentimes his confidence crosses over into brash arrogance. While his ego is certainly founded by his skills and talents, it's kept in check by his 6 younger siblings who aren't afraid to cut him down to size. Which is very close to how I always headcanoned Ludwig to be, so I'm happy that my fantasy isn't that far off, or actually the complete same of the canon version of Ludwig. But I will also always associate the Koopalings with the adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3, which is a cartoon series that I used to watch when I was little. When I was like 12 and it was free on YouTube. I believe he was called Cookie von Koopa and he was the mad scientist character because he was always creating these gadgets. And now that is so far off from the current Ludwig because the mad scientist character in my head goes to another character, or Koopaling, who I will talk about later, but I think you can kind of figure out who. But I do remember that Ludwig, or Cookie, had a funny laugh, and I will play a little clip of it. And with that, Maestro Ludwig is done, and he was probably the easiest one out of the 7 to design. Honestly, wasn't struggling with him at all, aside from his hair, his funky hair, but we'll just move on to the next one. Okay, I thought Roy was the second oldest, but it turns out to be Lemmy, so I kind of screwed up the order of going from the oldest Koopaling to the youngest Koopaling, but we're just gonna roll with it. For Roy, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do because I wanted to avoid trying to go for skins that Bowser or Bowser Jr. already have, but I really couldn't imagine Roy as anything else but a biker. And I really think it's mostly thanks to his sunglasses. Looking at the wiki, Roy is described as an arrogant but brutish bully who shows little to no regard for anyone other than himself. He is shown to be quite strong but also lazy and a patronizing hypocrite. I hope I said it right. Roy is physically the strongest of the Koopalings, one from Morton, crushing foes beneath his bulk and deflecting attacks with his hard shell. Okay, I always kinda had Morton to be the strongest, but we're just gonna roll with it. Roy prefers to use brawn over brains in every situation. He seems to be laid back, doesn't do work but just lay around, but he has a soft side towards his family. So in other words, compared to Ludwig and Cookie, Roy and Bully being the name that he had in the cartoon, are very similar to each other. Because I also always had Ken and Roy to be that kind of person that goes, "You can't bully my siblings, only I can." And also in design, Roy and Bully do look the most like each other. Other than you can see his eyes actually through the glasses as Bully. But that's like a minor nitpick, as well as the necklace or choker that he has on as Bully Koopa. And again, unfortunately, Roy isn't my favorite Koopaling, and if I'm being honest, if I had to rank the 7 Koopalings, Roy would be at the bottom, and that's simply because compared to the others, he looks kind of boring to me. I don't know, I know that some people might argue that Larry is looking the most boring, but he is cuter at least. And I think compared to Roy, Larry was allowed to show off more personality, especially in Super Mario Bros. Wii. But despite Roy being my least favorite Koopaling, I really had fun designing him as a biker. And actually, it's probably also one of the more easier ones that I did. I did struggle with the patches that he would have on his jacket, but in the end I think it turned out great. I also wasn't sure if I wanted to use his like normal glasses or make new glasses, but I decided to just go for his regular glasses because I really couldn't figure out something else. And I also gave him a little bandana to cover his head because I thought it looked cool. Now here is the actual second oldest child or Koopaling, which is Lemmy Koopa. And guys, let's be real, we probably all wouldn't have guessed Lemmy to be the second oldest. And just look at him, he's just vibing. Well, while he is the second oldest, he is also my second most favorite Koopaling. I always loved him, I think he's just so silly and cute, and that's basically the bare minimum a character needs to be in order to be a favorite of mine. And also for Lemmy, the skin idea wasn't that hard to think of, he is going to be a circus clown. And Lemmy doesn't have a lot of information about his personality on the wiki, but it does say that Lemmy is considered immature, childish, and quite silly. He would rather perform in a circus than cause trouble for Mario and Luigi. Lemmy also has a passion for anything circus related, and his best brother is Iggy. So I guess that basically means that his favorite brother is Iggy, and I don't blame him. And I like to think it's because Lemmy and Iggy used to look very similar, because before Iggy rocked the palm tree kind of hairstyle, he also had this rainbow type of hair like Lemmy. And in the cartoon they were also twins called Hip and Hop Koopa, which, wow. And I believe Lemmy was Hip Koopa. I don't think that Hip and Hop Koopa were that much apart in the cartoon. They always used to finish each other's sentences and also pull pranks on other people. I also believe that in the cartoon, I'm actually 100% sure of it, that they were the youngest. So it's kind of funny to see that Lemmy is the second oldest and Iggy is the middle child. And I also think that it's because of the cartoon that I thought that Lemmy and Iggy were closer to age, but not. But I still do like that even Nintendo, or the wiki at least, acknowledge that Lemmy and Iggy are closer to each other compared to their other siblings. It's what I always had canon them to be, just brothers who really genuinely enjoy each other's company and don't mind when the other one comes into the other's room. Unlike other siblings that I would probably kick out or be more annoyed by, I feel like Lemmy and Iggy are way closer in brotherly relationship like that. They're almost like Mario and Luigi, but Koopaling version in my head. And Lemmy is done. Again, he was not that difficult to draw, but I did struggle with colors. But I, in the end, decided to just bring back the colors that he has in his hair into his outfit, and obviously had to add in a classic red nose that every little clown has. Now we've finally arrived at my favorite Koopaling, which is Iggy Koopa. And for him, his outfit was super easy to think of. He was going to be a mad scientist. I know, he always gave me the vibe of being kind of mad and insane even, and the glasses really sell off the mad scientist vibe way more than Ludwig being a mad scientist, so I'm glad that they changed Ludwig. I know that people don't like his hair, but I really love his hair. It really makes him stand out more from Lemmy, especially since those two aren't twins anymore. So yeah, I'm probably one of the few people that actually love his green palm tree hair. So, in the wiki, Iggy is described as being easily excited and prone to bouts of hyperactivity, fooling around and annoying everyone in his vicinity. Iggy is childish, frivolous, and quite possibly insane, just as I thought. He is often known to cackle maniacally, even if there is nothing going on, and preferring to joke around. He is also the second smartest Koopaling, the first one being Ludwig von Koopa. So I basically said a lot about his cartoon version Hop during Lemmy's section, so there isn't really much more to add. But I will say, I am glad that they kind of made them both silly, but one is silly haha and the other is silly oh my god, he's probably insane. Dude, my favorite moment of Iggy is in Super Mario Bros. Wii when he slaps his butt. Kind of teasing Mario. And I think that everybody in the Super Mario fandom agrees that the chain chomp that he has during the battle is like his pet. Like, I think we can all agree that chain chomps are like the dogs in the Mushroom Kingdom, right? Because they bark like dogs and they're chained up like those aggressive dogs. Or am I really the only one? I can't believe that I'm the only one that thinks that. Other than that, there wasn't much to add to Iggy, because I knew that I just wanted to give him a lab coat and basically nothing else. And it's also kind of funny, but you'll see later that Iggy is the only one that I didn't give pants. And I don't know why I did it, but I still think it's funny because it could play in the mad scientist route. Like, dude, where are your pants? I'm probably having more fun with this idea than anybody else, but I'm just gonna keep it. I still think he looks cool, and I would definitely main him in this skin if it was in the game. It's finally time for the only girl Koopaling to show up, which is Wendy O Koopa, occasionally titled to Princess of Destruction apparently. Since Wendy has a boss battle in which she ice skates, I decided to give her a ice skater skin. I figured it suits her well, and of course she would want to wear something that sparkles, which most figure skating outfits do, so it was just perfect for her. In the wiki, Wendy is described to be bold, bossy, big-headed, and has a rivalry between Princess Peach and Princess Daisy in some of the spin-offs. Wendy is something of a diva and often behaves like a spoiled brat, similar to Bowser Jr. And this kind of fits in my headcanon that Bowser kind of spoils Wendy because she's the only girl and spoils Bowser Jr. because he is the youngest and also looks the most like him. Her appearance and amount of accessories she wears may showcase the fact that she attempts to improve her appearance and look as good as possible. She is especially friendly and nice towards Larry Koopa and Bowser Jr. But then again, in my headcanon, she would also be very attentive to Morton Jr. because I do remember them having a closer relationship in the cartoon with each other. In the cartoon, she was called Cootie Pie or Cutie Pie. I always said Cutie Pie, but I think they refer to her as Cootie Pie, but you know, it sounds like Cutie Pie, so we're just going with that. But their personalities haven't changed a lot, and appearance-wise, like Roy, Wendy mostly stayed the same. I guess her lips only got bigger over the years, and she doesn't have the little bow around her tail anymore, which is a shame because that's very cute, so I decided to bring that back in the ice skater uniform. Again, Wendy isn't my personal favorite, but she is ever so slightly more interesting to me compared to Roy, so that's why she isn't at the bottom, but like just above Roy by just a little bit. I just think that she has more personality going on than Roy at this point of time. Who knows, maybe Nintendo is cooking something up, maybe they'll bring them back in the movie or something, or make a spin-off game with just the Koopalings, I don't know, I'm just hoping for that at this point. But the drawing is done, and she was a lot harder to draw than I imagined, and I still think it turned out pretty cute. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do a blue or pink color scheme, but since every single Koopaling so far still look the same, like I didn't change any of their shell colors or whatever, so I decided to just keep pink for Wendy too. The second youngest Koopaling is Morton Koopa Jr. and I like him a lot. He's my third favorite. I don't know what it is about him. He's just so cool looking. And I knew that I wanted him to have a construction worker skin. And that's mostly because, like I said before, I always thought that he was the strongest, and he also has a hammer in one of his boss battles, so construction worker was really the idea that I had for him. So in the wiki it says that Morton can be described as being like a simple-minded oaf. Morton is known to be very angry and prone to temper tantrums. He has an inflated opinion of himself and likes to think that he is right about everything. Though he is usually wrong, and also he is incredibly talkative. He has a strong relationship with his brother Roy. So again, I think that he and Roy are closer to each other, which in my mind does make sense. Because both he and Roy are more physically strong, I guess. So maybe they have, unlike Lemmy and Iggy, who are close because they're both silly in different ways, Roy and Morton Jr. kind of see each other as rivals because they're both strong and kind of short-tempered, but still have kind of a respect for each other. But I like to think that Morton Jr. would admit that he respects Roy a lot easier or faster than Roy ever would admit that he admires or respects Morton Jr. a lot. And in the Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3 cartoon, Morton was called the Big Mouth Koopa because he talked a lot. Other than the fact that Morton, or Big Mouth, was very small, he and Morton Jr. still look the same, like color palette wise and design wise. Also personality didn't change a lot, I think. Like, I never imagined that they still kept the part in which Morton Jr. is very talkative like Big Mouth, because I just didn't imagine it coming from a guy that looks like that, but I do love that they kept it in. And with that, Morton's Jr. design is done, and I think this was my second most easiest, like just a little bit harder than Ludwig, but that's because of the reflect effects that I had to give the little vest thingy that the construction workers wear. But he still turned out great in my opinion. Finally, the last of the Koopalings, the youngest, and in my opinion, the baby of the Koopalings, Lemmy Koopa. And he is going to be a tennis player because he has a tennis racket. And I figure that he probably loves sports. And according to the wiki, he does. So hooray for another headcanon that turns out to be canon. I do admit that compared to the other Koopalings, that maybe Larry's is very simple. But I think that simple works for him. Larry is described to be naive, childish, friendly and happy-go-lucky in personality, as he doesn't often see the bad in the situations that he's in. He wants to be strong, however, Larry is somewhat cowardly and often runs from what he believes to be dangerous. Despite this, Larry is very hostile when angered and will go on rampages. He is also portrayed to be sneaky, scheming, lying cheat, hence the name Cheatsy in the cartoon. So, like most of the other Koopalings, Larry and his cartoon equivalent Cheatsy aren't that different, but I will admit that Larry does look a lot better. Cheatsy scares me, he just looks creepy. And Larry is such a cutie patootie, he is literally like a cat to me, and I think it's because of the mouth that he has. Larry is like in the middle of my favorite Koopalings, and it's simply because I do like Iggy, Lemmy and Morton Jr. just more than him. And then lastly would be Ludwig, Wendy and Roy, so yeah, I technically gave away my top 7, didn't I, in this video? Oh well, if you came this far, comment down below your favorite Koopalings. My friend also told me that Larry is the leader of the Koopalings, which I don't see anywhere on the wiki, or I'm just not finding the info or just reading over it. But I guess that could make sense, even though in my headcanon it has always been Ludwig simply because he's the oldest and the smartest of the Koopalings. But Larry being the leader of the Koopalings would be interesting, kind of like giving your youngest brother a role that he could be proud of, but knowing that you probably have to figure things out yourself anyway. As for his outfit, it was pretty easy to do. It's just a simple tennis outfit, and I wanted to add like a bandana or whatever it's called that sports people have against the sweat on their head, but his eyes, like Lemmy's, are so big that it was kind of difficult to see, so I just decided to not do it. And that's all 7 of them done. I really had fun drawing them, and I just really wanted to make a video because I just wanted to get the idea out and also bring the points that I had across without having to type down a dialogue underneath the drawing description. And that's why I made this video. It was very fun, and I am planning on making more videos after playing some more Mario Kart World. Maybe I will record myself playing Mario Kart World, but I'm not really a video game YouTuber, I guess. I don't like recording myself gaming, and my laptop also struggles with it a lot more than when I record speed paint. So, you know, maybe if people comment that they want to see me play the game, I will, but I'm not a pro at it. I am very much a casual gamer. If you like art related stuff or hearing somebody ramble about their OCs, then definitely subscribe to me, or well, my channel. And other than that, have a nice day or night, and maybe I'll see you next time. Bye bye!